Yes, sir. Time to get another episode of the Saw Society activated. And do I have? I don't think I have the things here. So tonight, joining us again. Hope you guys are having a good evening. But again, I'll say, Mr. Man Things, how are you doing this evening?
Man, I'm good. I'm tired.
Tired.
I'm cranking. I'm cranking on like 3 hours of sleep because I worked on this super sweet ass desk that I have last night to get it done so we can be ready for the show today.
Okay, yes, sir. We may have to. Matter of fact, I'm gonna see if I can set it from my phone. Maybe able to get a picture of that so that people can see that here before we log off tonight. Because I think it's very nice work. But yes, tonight we're going to be talking about a variety of things. There's been so much stuff that has been going on since the last episode that we've had to have. I mean, the last one we wanted to cover the Roseanne issue, but that's been a few days, and plenty more things have taken place since then. So we're going to make sure we cover a variety of things tonight. Again, if you guys have questions, things that you want to ask, things that you want to get into, societymailbag@gmail.com. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. I mean, if you have things for a future episode of the Saw Society, make sure you utilize that, and we'd be more than happy to cover that. How you doing this evening, Brandon? So like I say, man, there's just so much going on. Let's kind of cover that topic a little bit, the Roseanne thing that we missed out on, and then we can kind of go from there. I'm sure there's a couple of things that you want to speak on. There's a couple other issues I want to discuss also. But we just kind of touch on a few things, and just make sure, like I said, we got some time tonight, and make sure that we catch up.
Yeah, man. Hey, Rosie done fucked up now, man. You can't get away with stuff like that. And I mean, let's be real. Valerie Jarrett does look like a character from the Planet of the Apes. Like, that's on some real shit,
man,
dude.
I completely agree with you. And the funny thing is, I'm like, damn, is it kind of fucked up? Because I was just looking at a picture of. Actually, I was looking at the thumbnail that I had because I went from last week. And I was looking. I was like, man, am I wrong for this? Because she does look like she just has a funny looking little face. And I mean, it's not even because I didn't know she was black. I would have known she was black had somebody have said it. I don't even know if she really is. I've heard that she's. Have Iranian descent. I've heard a bunch of different things. Like I say, I'm not sure exactly what it is. So I don't even think of that when I say. I mean, she actually has the features of a character from the Planet of the Apes. So I didn't really find that too offensive in that aspect of it. But yeah, we're in this day and age, and Rosie, she's an avid user of the Twitter, and so I'm sure she's aware of the outrage culture that comes with it, and you just kind of have to be careful. With what you do on that platform, especially any of these platforms now, because everybody's looking for just a reason to take away anything you've worked for. They're looking for a reason to undermine. People are just looking for a reason to wake up and get mad and say that, hey, this is the reason my life fucking sucks, is because somebody said something today, just this very minute, but that's the reason the last 18, 20, 30, 40 years of my life has been miserable because this one thing that somebody said. Like I said, it's kind of crazy how it's almost daily. It's something else. But the thing I think I felt the worst for is kind of her co-workers. Because
out of a job, man.
Yeah. And I've heard they've actually maybe considering trying to bring the show back without Roseanne. I don't see how that's going to work, and I don't think that's going to make sense. And I just don't understand what kind of angle you would spin, with that. But
yeah, how are you going to have Family Matters without Steve Urkel, or The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air without Will Smith? I mean, don't get me wrong, we are in the era of shitty reboots. I mean, back in I remember in 2007 when they started going on this whole tirade with Transformers, I was like, yeah, man, that's badass, dude. It's giant robots. I don't know who doesn't like stuff like that. But then 4 movies later, and the inclusion of Marky Mark, I was disillusioned with it, and now they've got the reboot everything, but let's just make it about women, kind of thing going on, and that's going so well for them. Yeah. Ghostbusters and Ocean's 8, they're just such promising movies. Yeah. But Brandon says Roseanne dies in the first episode back. They're gonna have to figure out how to move on without Roseanne. Yeah, I mean, no, I feel bad for all of her coworkers, man, because that's they have contracts, they have deals, they have episodes that they're shooting, and now they're out of work.
Yeah, it's no fault of their own. That's very unfortunate. But I mean, if they found a way to bring back Dan, so maybe they can try to find a way to finesse Roseanne out of the episode. Yeah, what did they change the name to though? You know, used to be Roseanne, or who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, talking about all the outrage, all the crazy stuff going on. I actually want to talk about just briefly something that took place. You know, the same guy, and my thing is, and I want to make sure, because like I said, I look at all politicians equally, but I try to look at things, life, you know, as objectively as I can. And so when people are always accusing, you know, this one side of doing this or this one person of doing this, you know, I don't really align either way. I just kind of look at, well, you know, how does this guy get treated this way, but you give this gentleman over here a pass? And so I'm looking at the whole Trump situation that took place recently, because like I said, I'm not a Trump fan, I'm not a Trump hater. I don't look at Trump. Actually, there's things about Trump that I like, that I find very intriguing. There's things about him, yeah, that do disgust me, but I don't hate the man. He's not the reason that anything that is going wrong in my life is his fault. How some people just, you know, it bothers me, because, you know, the media's gotten so lazy, because all you have to do is write something negative about Trump, and now it's a Pulitzer Prize winning piece or whatever it is now, you know, because you said something negative, and it's gotten, you know, journalism has gotten really lazy. But two people that society doesn't have a lot of appreciation for, one a Kardashian and the second being Trump, came together recently. And when the meeting happened, I saw so many people talking a lot of shit. Oh, you know, what does Kim Kardashian know about prison reform? And you know, Trump, why is he listening to her? You know, just a bunch of stuff. But then in the end, you know, the goal that was sought out was achieved. And a lady, Alice Johnson, her sentence was, I want to say, was it commuted, or because there's a difference. I know there's pardoned and there's commuted.
Yeah, she wasn't pardoned, but she got it. She's out.
Yeah, and that's all that fucking matters. I mean, I don't think she cared what you call it, as long as she's, you know, free. So, and that's the thing. And so, you know, I had to kind of change my outlook on things, because, like I say, I try to be as fair as I can. But some things, you know, there's always going to be biases. You can't, you know, it is what it is. But
absolutely,
I cannot blame, because you still have people talking shit. Oh, you know, well, she did this and she did that. Well, she converted that fame into, even if, you know, all the things she's done up until this point have been useless. I know the one person at least that appreciates Donald Trump and that appreciates what Kim Kardashian has done, because this woman could be spending the rest of her life in jail. I think she already spent like 20 years.
21, I think, 20 or 21 years, man. Long time.
Yeah.
Long time to be away from your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, my thing is, admittedly, she did it, you know, and like I said, I've had my things, and so I understand, you know, where it coming from. But the thing that bothers me is when you talk about the mandatory minimums, because I think mandatory minimums, what that does is it takes power out of the hands of the judges to actually determine, you know, the involvement of someone in some of these what they may call criminal organizations, or they involvement in, you know, these organized crime, or how do they want to, you know, identify certain things. They use certain terminology, but and so that's something I do have a concern with, because I think that sometimes people get caught up in things, and the sentence can be a little bit harsh for certain people, that I think that every individual case should be looked at. That's how I try to treat people in life, and that's how I think that, you know, things should definitely be handled in the court system. Just lumping things under one category in the mandatory minimum is something I think that needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, well, that's because you subscribe to the more libertarian mindset as well. It's not a one-size-fits-all punishment, you know. And you've got certain crimes that if someone commits them while they're a teenager, they're going to live with that for the rest of their life. I mean, I'm not the same person that I was whenever I'm 16. I'm not the same person that I was whenever I'm 19, 20, 21. I'll be 30 this year, man. And I'm not the same person that I was 2 years ago.
Exactly.
So mandatory minimums, they're garbage. Yeah. That's just a way for people to crack down on stuff that it's a knee-jerk reaction, like the crack epidemic in, you know, the upper states and methamphetamine down in the South. Yeah. That's a knee-jerk reaction for people to clutch their pearls and feel like they're doing something about it, because, oh, well, you know, obviously if there's such heavy sentences that get doled out with, you know, the use and the distribution of these drugs, it's not having an effect, or nobody would be doing it. There's a deeper underlying cause.
Yes, absolutely.
Addiction and the need to use, you know, stimulants or alcohol or whatever it is, it's not something that you're going to change with a jail sentence, because if it were true, then the recidivism rate would be a hell of a lot better than it is all over the place. Okay. Maybe jail is too soft too. Maybe people don't mind going back to jail. No, I don't know what it is, but you know, I've been in handcuffs once, and I've never been on the inside. I've been close, but yeah, I've never even been to the drunk tank, man. I try to fly the straight and narrow, but man, every once in a while you get drunk and some dude says some shit at the bar, and it's just time to go.
Yeah, it happens. I wouldn't say I've been, to the big house, but I've definitely, there've been a couple of places that you don't want to be, but even for just a little bit. But the thing is, though, what you have with a lot of this stuff, and I've looked at, how they do certain things overseas and how they do certain things here in America. And I think that with some of the stuff as far as jail time and sentences, I think that things need to be, I don't want to say a scientific approach, but I think that certain crimes need to be separated. So you have violent offenders need to be in a certain location. Nonviolent offenders need to be in a certain location. And then by the type of crime, depending on what it is, I think there are certain things that can be rehabilitated, if you will, if that's what you want to call it, or assisted with. And then I think you have certain things where, hey, when you commit an act against another human being, once you start to taking that disregard for other people's lives and things like that's when I think you start having a bigger issue. That's when I think you have to kind of get a little bit more aggressive with the sentencing and things like that. But when it's something that there's I don't want to say that there's choices, but hey, if you're selling drugs, okay, you're not forcing something on people. You're not, if you have a gun and other things, there's certain levels to it that I think you have to take into accountability. Right. But I think that nonviolent offenses, that there should be a separation, and I think there should be a real goal to try to rehabilitate people who aren't harming other individuals in society, because I don't think that you can predict when you put somebody back out in the society when they will or won't harm someone else. I think that's a different situation to deal with. Hey, how's it going, Sean? Real live in a minute. I hope all.
I would actually be a huge proponent for kind of splintering the prison system. So the only people that need to actually be in prison, incarcerated as an inmate to the state, are violent offenders or habitual sexual offenders or people of that nature. But for all the other stuff like that, do something else, because it's obviously not working. I would be a huge proponent for that if there were actually somebody that ran on that. But while we're here, before I forget, did you I think this might have just been a little bit ago, the president was actually getting on or off the helicopter, doesn't matter. He was talking about the NFL protests and how he said, I can see how they say that there's things that are unfair, but let's do something more constructive. He's like, in Trump's way of being a dickhead, he's extending an olive branch to the protesters, and he's saying, like, hey, let's not stand in the locker room or let's not kneel for the anthem. Let's all come together as a country. But if you give me names of people that or are a friend of a friend or something like that, I will look into their case. Because the first thing he opened up with was presidential pardon's a huge power. Like, we can do a whole lot with this. Yeah. So there might actually be some good stuff coming with that. But what do you think about? And I know this is dumb. I just want to get like a quick thought on this. What do you think about Meek Mill skipping out on going to the White House to talk about prison reform, and then Kim Kardashian actually going? Man. Like, what does that do for Meek's image?
Oh man, I think it makes him. I don't know. See, this is the thing, and this is why I say, and I think part of this comes with black culture, and you're listening to that base on social media and not making your own decisions. Sometimes you got to do what's not popular with what's everybody else agrees. Because nobody was thinking that Kim Kardashian was going to get shit done. Oh, president's just going to look at her ass. He's going to grab her by the pussy, and that's how he's going to get some prison reform. I heard crazy shit like that. You hear people say crazy things, and I think that's part of the problem is listening too much to others' opinions and knowing that, hey, look, I just came out of jail. Okay, now I have a bit of a platform. My name is kind of out there right now, being that I was kind of railroaded in my situation. We had a judge who had adequate evidence showing that, that I didn't do the things I was accused of. Actually had law enforcement who were testifying that he didn't do the things that, they had evidence that he didn't do the things that he did. And, there was still some things going on in the justice. That was a prime example. That was a platform. I think that was a situation where he kind of messed up. Not kind of, it was a major mess up, because you were the voice. You were a person that it actually happened to, not a third party. Yeah. And I think you could have took that and said, hey, if we could come together and we could show that, okay, hey, Trump's willing to sit down, I'm willing to sit down, and we're having a conversation as Trump is talking to the very people that y'all say he hates and that y'all say he doesn't give a fuck about. And it's when, like you said, with the NFL thing, I did catch it. I thought that was actually great. I thought that was real good by Trump to extend that that hand. But I think he did a disservice to a lot of people by not accepting that, or by not taking that opportunity to go to the White House and do that.
And see, that plays into, so the people that are opponents of like Black Lives Matter, or even like prison reform, you know, people that say like, I don't think we have a problem, like nothing's wrong. That plays into the stereotype that the people that are complaining about it, they don't want a solution, they just want to complain. So then whenever someone actually offers them the opportunity to discuss things or have an open forum or do whatever, and then you're like, yeah, you know, man, I would, but Jay-Z yanked me up by the chain and said I can't do that because it's bad optics for my career. Well, then what's more important? Do you actually care about prison reform, or are you just looking out for number one? I don't blame you for looking out for number one, but don't come back out and act like there were extenuating circumstances other than the fact that you thought it was going to be bad optics for you and your new album.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, I guess there's a point where, and I think a lot of people are looking at it like the Kanye situation, which I had absolutely no problem with what Kanye said. You know, he said, you know, there's things I like about Trump, there's things I don't like, but I do love his energy. He has dragon energy. And
dragon energy.
And I mean, it sounds a little Charlie Sheenish, you know, winning and all that other stuff. It sounds along those lines. But hey, if the man, I don't understand how someone can be vilified for having an opinion. But it's this, and this is why I say this is what gets me about, especially with other black people, you know, because it's almost just as racist to sit here and say that we all have to think of the same mind and be of the same mindset because, well, the majority of us hate Trump. Everybody has to hate. I don't give a fuck about it. I mean, it just doesn't care. So what is wrong with Kanye? Say, I don't hate the man. Like, hey, hate is toxic, man. Hate will bring you down before it brings down whatever you're directing that hate towards, because it's eating you up inside. So if he says, I don't hate the man, you know, there's things I can disagree with him on, there's things I can agree with him on, but I like his energy. What's wrong with that? I don't understand. Like I say, people try to ruin him, and so he had a lot of backlash, and he just dropped an album, and everybody's, you know, I'm not supporting his album. I don't support the album. Anybody who supports with Trump, and you know, and I mean, it's just a lot of crazy stuff. And I says, it's crazy that you're not allowed to have your own opinion. You're not allowed to have your own thought process anymore without people getting angry at you for thinking.
Dude, if Kanye is going after the money machine, he's doing it the right way, because you got to think of this: for every one person that drops him as like an interest of theirs as an artist, Trump's got a really wide fan base. And just because they're not, you know, Democratic voting bloc African American doesn't mean that they don't like to listen to hip hop. And these are also people that, for the most part, believe in like free market economics. If you look at Trump's base, they believe in business. So, oh, this guy says something that I like, I vote with my dollar. That dude's probably going to clean house with that album. Doesn't matter how many people boycott it and what they do to him. If it was just strictly a business move, then it's a smart move. I've always thought that Kanye West is just kind of like a man of the moment. He wakes up and decides what he wants to do that day. And if he wants to be Black Jesus, then he's Black Jesus. If he's going to be Yeezy, he's Yeezy, man. Like, he's a very interesting fellow. That's what makes artists a good artist. And he's got some damn good fucking tunes, man. Yeah. Kanye West has written some fucking legendary music. But, you know, just to go, it's kind of like the same thing as like whenever somebody does something bad and it comes out, and then like the Hulk Hogan thing, you know, like, he said racist stuff, so he's removed from the WWE Hall of Fame, which the WWE Hall of Fame, let's face it, it's just like another film actors guild for muscly oiled dudes. Like, you're not an actual wrestler, but you're in the WWE Hall of Fame. So you take him out, you erase him from the history. Does that change what he's actually said? No. Does he still have all that money that he's ever made? Yeah. He just won a lawsuit against Gawker and got them shut down recently because of all that crap that Gawker did. But that's neither here nor there. Like, when you try to go in hard on somebody and take away all of their accomplishments, you don't actually accomplish anything other than giving yourself something that you feel like is worth patting yourself on the back for. Yeah. Like, look what we did, guys. The Twitter mob came out, and now Hulk Hogan knows just how bad things were. Hulk Hogan don't give a fuck about you.
Well, he's sitting in his mansion, kick back, drinking whatever, going wherever he wants to. He's not concerned. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, you know, us more normal people, and I mean, not us, I don't want to say that we think like some of these other people think, so I don't want to lump us in that category, but that I think you have people who are, let's just say regular people, but they apply like their lifestyle and their logic onto these celebrities as though, and I think that with social media, I think it's kind of thinned that barrier, because you remember it used to be like a mystery almost around celebrity. It used to be kind of a what do they do in their private time? What's going on? But now with the social media, you can do 24/7. They're streaming, and they're on their Snapchat. So you see everything, and so you feel like you're a part of it. These people feel like they're a part of these people's lives, and so that barrier is almost disappeared. And so they feel like, well, I know what they're thinking. They should be doing this and should be doing that, and they think that the same things that would affect them or would devastate them would harm these celebrities. But money talks, bullshit walks 1,000 miles. So they're not. I mean, what may ruin your life, they're going to spend a couple of bucks, and that problem's going to be fixed in their eyes. And they're going to carry on, and that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then you've got the in group out group preference there. You've got their fans, and you've got the people who didn't give a shit about what they were doing 5 minutes ago, but now all of a sudden that they've heard that they, in 1995 he said X, Y, and Z, therefore he is the worst human piece of garbage that's ever walked the face of this planet. Let's pick up our keyboard pitchforks and let's go after this mofo. Yeah, that's hilarious, man. But the funny thing is, whenever the shoe starts going on the other foot, like with Justin Trudeau, so turns out that the Canadian Prime Minister was feeling up on a reporter back in like 2000. And then, this is the guy who wrote an open letter to Canadians. It was either open letter to Canadians or open letter to Canadian Parliament, but said we need to raise our young men as feminists so that sexual assault, rape, and crimes against women go down. But it turns out that he's just like, I always see it this way, man. Like, the thing that people are the biggest proponents for is like what they're scared of or what they're guilty of. It's like a guilty mind talking. You're trying to get some sort of absolution for your own little dirty thoughts. Yeah. So Catholic priests always talking about homosexuality and how it's a sin and everything like that, and this and that and the other, dipping into the communion wine and little boys' booty holes. That's a prime example of it. But then you also have a bunch of lefties that, Harvey Weinstein, Justin Trudeau, and the more prominent lefties come out, the more you realize that some of these people are probably like, we have to fight Donald Trump because he represents everything that we hate. Well, no, it's the fact that you're protecting your ego. We talk about that a lot. Like, you go into defense mode whenever your ego is threatened, because when someone says it, you get that nervous little, oh God, I hope they're not on to me. Yeah, let's go fuck this guy up. He's a fucking piece of shit. Who would ever treat women like that? Shut up, bitch.
Yeah. And it makes me think of that episode of The Simpsons too. It was when they were taking a vote or something like that, and everybody would be kind of pointing, and then like one person would always dissent, but it's just always that one person that they want to draw the attention all the way over there. When everybody kept saying it was like I forgot what they were voting for, but it would always be like everybody in favor say aye, and then you hear like a little nay just way over in the corner somewhere every time. And then when they find like, who keeps saying that, and then it's like he points the direction, points at somebody else. But it's almost like you have some of these people, and they like you say, generate this attention, or they kind of dissent and they create this situation, and then when people start looking at them, they get nervous. They're trying to push and point in every other direction. And I didn't even know that about Trudeau. I saw the comment you left, and I thought it was kind of in reference to something else. I didn't know he was out there filling up on reporters, huh? Getting a little grabby, huh?
Well, and then I'm not going to quote it, but I believe what he said to her was, "Oh, I'm sorry, if I would have known that you were here in that capacity," because she said, "I'm a reporter." He said, "If I would have known you were here in that capacity, I wouldn't have been so forward." So people are, and justifiably so. This is a guy who's made a lot of his chops on, acting like a 16-year-old girl's wet dream. So, respecting women, that whole meme and everything like that. But now he comes out that he's been doing all this stuff, and his excuse is like, oh, well, if I would have known you were a reporter, I wouldn't have been so forward with you. So who else is Trudeau bastardizing over there on his own time? But yeah, I got back into EVE Online, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that game. It's spaceships and dying continuously over and over until you get good. It takes a long time to get good in that game, but yeah, I've got a bunch of friends that play up there from Canada, and every time I get on, I've got this one dude, and he's like, "Oh, how about our Prime Minister, eh? That guy's a fucking tool bag." I'm just like, Jesus Christ, bro, like that's the only thing he wants to talk about, that and how Jordan B. Peterson should be the next Canadian Prime Minister.
Oh man, it seems to get a lot of heat going around Jordan B. He definitely is a very polarized guy. I'm definitely a fan. I like what he has to say, but there's definitely a crowd out there who is attempting to shut him down. But something along the lines of that well, not necessarily along those lines, but something I want to talk about, and something that we've kind of both somewhat been involved with these last couple of days, but not so much the the replies and all that. But I kind of want to talk about the situation, because it's just something that bothers me. But I find it funny because it's like the same people who kind of asked for this to happen. Now that it's happening, they're the same ones upset that it's happening. And so, to me, like I said, I just find it all fun. It's hard for me to really take a lot of it seriously. You asked for this, and now that you're getting a taste of the medicine, you're losing it. But I want to say I think it was Connecticut or somewhere up there. Anyway, you saw the video. A couple of guys are trans. I don't even know what is it. Is it supposed to be trans men?
I'm looking for them right now because I know exactly who you're talking about. They were like one of the first ones to jump all over that and get all high and mighty about it.
Yeah, and it was, I forgot what you call it. I don't know if it's when it's the man is acting like he's a trans. I don't know. But anyway, but we had a situation where a lot of people were getting upset about a particular race that happened because these 2 guys basically transgendered or whatever, racing with girls, man. And this is a thing that has been going on in sports kind of low key for a while now. I'm seeing it more in the amateurs now, but I know that there was a situation too with the UFC fighter, not a UFC, sorry, let me not say UFC, an MMA fighter a while back, and she was found out to have been born, or it was found out to have been born a man, or he, or whatever. Like if somebody could be, well, no matter what I say, somebody's gonna get offended. So who gives a fuck?
Nobody fucking cares.
It's like
we don't care.
Yeah,
we don't fucking care.
Yeah, it's too hard to fucking keep up with it. So the dude anyway was born a man, fighting as a woman. That's the best way to identify it. And I mean, literally beating the brakes off of these women. Like I mean, it honestly, I feel like the dude should be in jail because I mean, it's physically unfair. But the same thing with these 2 guys that just won first and second place in this little track meet. It wasn't even close. I mean, and if you look at it and you watch it, and I actually felt bad for the girls because, they were giving it their all. And I made a joke about it, was about that the guy had bad form. But seriously, I mean, I don't understand how do we reach this point? How did it get to the point where we find this okay, where we find this acceptable for, I mean, it's an obvious physical advantage. You're obviously a man. Why are we allowing these things to happen? Why are we allowing men who feel like less than men to say, well, I'm not as good enough to compete with other men? Because here, it was something I was cracking a joke with my old lady about. I'm going to come back to it in a second. But we're allowing these men to compete with women, and there's, like I say, again, an unfair advantage. And just, it's almost like the KD shit. Let me just go join a team that's just this absolute unfair.
Already stacked. Yeah. Already stacked.
Yeah. And it's not close. And so, like I said, these guys are running with piss poor form. I mean, it's sloppy. I mean, there's no way they'd ever win a boys' race. But still, because they're physically stronger and more muscular than these girls, they blow them out the water. You look at these girls and you watch them run. I mean, perfect form. They're running as hard as they can. It's like, so I say, because at first I laughed about it, but then I kind of went back. I was like, man, I kind of feel bad for those girls because that's potential college scholarships. There's not a lot of action for women as it goes as in female sports as it is, and so you're allowing these guys to come in and take opportunities from them. Like I say, I'm all about equality. I want everybody to have equal access to opportunity. That's just as about as far as it goes. But you're taking that opportunity from biological women by allowing a dude to go to the Chinese store, the little Chinese hair store anywhere on the corner, in the hood, anywhere, and go get a pack of weave, throw it in his head, and say, well, I feel like a female, and go win a race and get ribbons for them. I wonder how do you feel inside trying to you can't be proud of that victory. Even when the dude won the race, he didn't even seem like there was any, there was no enthusiasm. There was nobody won. There was no benefit for anybody out of that. And it's just, it blows my mind that people are okay with this and people think that this is justifiable. If there's anything, then there needs to be if you're gonna do this, then start a trans league or something. Or why not do this? Here's my thing. This is the joke I was making my old lady. I was like, well,
Honcho, because a trans league would just be a men's league.
Exactly.
Or a women's league, whichever.
Exactly. But it's like, but we have to feel, but like the joke I was telling about my old lady was, well, if the case is that he is a woman now, well, why does he take a big leap for women's rights and race in the men's division and win as a woman in the men's division? Why don't you do that? Then go
to show that girls can do anything that boys can do.
Exactly. That's what I said. I'm like, why not do that? But of course that would only be right. But it's just crazy.
Spike, and I transitioned to a woman so I could show that girls can do anything that men can.
Man, could you imagine the media would have a field day with trying to tell that story? I don't even know how you would start off with that.
Well, this is another one. Like the wrestler, was that UNT Denton, or I think no, it was University of Texas. I think there's a dude who's wrestling. I want to say it's UT for the Longhorns wrestling team. He's a guy wrestling in women's wrestling and beating the brakes off of all the rest of these chicks, and they're like, huh, imagine that. Yeah. Testosterone. Yeah. It's a thing. Look it up.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, like, as a competitor in anything, and don't get me wrong, I guess some people, they just want the feel of winning no matter what it takes. I mean, and that's why you have people who, they go above and beyond. You call it cheating, you call it whatever it is. In particular sports, yeah, some of the times it is cheating, but you got people willing to push the limits just to get that victory. So I guess if people are willing to inject themselves with all kind of unknown substances, I guess it would just be easy to say, well, fuck it, I already got the natural testosterone. Let me just move into a division where I have a natural advantage, and I ain't got to worry about doing it. But it's crazy, man. Who are the people that are on these committees that are approving this? Who are that's what I want to know. Like, how are these things happening? I mean, years ago we would have thought this was a joke. There's no way that any of this it almost seems unrealistic. The stories that we hear sometimes that are just coming out. I mean, what do you think really started leading up to this point? And I've heard a lot of people talk about Title IX, and
Title IX is a symptom. It's not the root. If you want to know where I get on this, so you remember when we were talking the other day how, like, back in the 90s, people would start doing the whole, well, you can earn this much money, and then actually, I know a guy who does that. It kind of like started then. It was the root of collective narcissism, and that's what started like the polarization between the two political parties. And now you've got a bunch of people who, no matter what, my ideas are sacrosanct, and I can't question them. I don't know how to question them, and all I know is that my idea is better than your idea, so I'm a great person and you're a piece of shit. So it's come to that point now where no matter what, the people that are on the pro side for that, more often than not, they're going to end up in academia, education. They're going to end up in a little bit more of like the higher politisphere, if you will. I believe that, what was it, like 60% of billionaires are Democrat or vote Democrat, and not like the blue dog Democrat, like a Texas business Democrat, but especially the Silicon Valley types. I think that it's just those particular types of people, they've gotten themselves into this thing where they can't say no because they've gotten so used to being tolerant and open-minded that there's nothing that they won't be open-minded about. Well, I won't say nothing. They have their limits, pedophilia, all that kind of stuff like that. But there's always going to be that subsect of that particular group that's looking for the next thing to push for. So you see how, like, civil rights for African Americans took 200 years. And then in Jim Crow South, it took another 60 for them to actually, like, get over all of that stuff. And now they're dealing with the long-term ramifications of it today. This whole, like, gay rights movement and everything like that was from, like, the early 90s to now. But if you asked people what the most important thing was, like, who was the most aggrieved in society, oh, well, gay people are, discriminated against and transgender and yada, yada, yada. but that's a very small subsect. You're not talking about like 12% of the population of the United States. You're talking about like 2%, and that's transgender and gay. But I think that the collective narcissism on the left-hand side says no matter what happens, unless it involves kids, it's okay. So who are we to judge? And then the collective narcissism on the right says you guys are a bunch of fairy fruitcakes, and I don't have to respect you as a human being because I don't fucking know the first thing about you. If you walked up to me on the street and said, "Call me sir," I'd probably call you sir and then be like, "Wow, that dude's smoking dope. Yeah. He's got some issues." Yeah. But whenever you start trying to make it like me not using your pronoun is somehow the same, it's got the same moral equivalency as Jim Crow South, then that's a huge fucking deal, man. Yeah. Like, that's huge. Somebody not calling you sir or ma'am or zim or z or zer is not the same thing as getting hosed down by fucking police and attacked by goddamn German shepherds. Yeah. For fuck's sake. But they lend it that same credibility because that's just the new oppression Olympics, I think is what they use the term for it. So you just got like 2 big groups of collective narcissists that think that no matter what, they're not wrong because they can't be wrong because anything outside of their worldview falls into the category of the other, and those are just fucking idiots. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how we got to this point, but it was like death by 1,000 cuts. It was polarization, it was the addition of the 30-second or 30 millisecond or nanosecond news cycle, whatever the fuck it is now. Yeah. The instant need for companies and businesses to generate those clicks led to sensationalism, and that sensationalism trickles down into the public psyche. So now you've got these people who are fed by whatever the media is espousing to them to be the truth, with a massive bent in it. If you watch any cable news, you got to understand they need advertisers, and to get advertisers, they have to have a group, like a base, so they have to have a slant, or else they don't get airtime. But all of that leads up to where we are today, where you've just got completely like ice and fire just constantly colliding because we need more rights, we need more protections, we need more government services. You know, this is a right, this is a right, this is a right. Versus no, you're responsible for your own shit. No social safety net, no nothing. That's fucking bullshit. You can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And in between those 2 camps actually lies the truth. You know, like it's the truth is a shade of gray. It just depends on who you're asking. But the most or the best answer is actually in between those things, but we can't get to that point because of collective narcissism. I know I've said that about 16 times. Collective narcissism. There, 18.
Yeah, but no, very good point. Very good point, man. And I do think that, I mean, you hit it really the nail on the head, and that's the problem. As soon as you say anything somewhat different, even if it's, I mean, just a slight degree off of, you know, the collective idea, then you're a member of the other side, or you're a Nazi, that extreme that you said, like you mentioned, that it's almost, you know, it's because these people, I guess they, in their own minds, they had their well-meaning, but I mean, it's really, you're undermining your whole argument when you start comparing stuff of that nature, or you know, like you said, not using your pronouns. Now you're a Nazi. You're this. You know, you're attacking. That's not physical abuse. It's because you just feel slightly uncomfortable because you know you and I don't even know where it starts. And again, like I say, it's a whole other thing that I don't understand. But again, I don't think that some people should be forced to have to deal with identity politics. Mm-hmm. I think that's just a personal issue that, you know, that whoever has that needs to deal with, man. I mean,
well, the scary thing is, man, that like, and this is part of like a side effect of Trump becoming president and the campaign style that he ran. The people on the right hand side of the aisle, for all of their faults and like the religiosity and stuff like that, I could always give them that they tried to use common sense, facts, and logic for their argument, but the right is falling into identitarian politics as well. Not in the same way that a lot of the lefties are, where there's like a hierarchy of who is the most oppressed, but we have to attack these people because they're a blight on the American ideal. Like, we have to lock shields and protect, you know, like the America that we know is the real America. The America that they want, that's just socialism, that's just communist, like the East Bloc Soviet Union. No. we need to keep America the way that it is because it's the greatest country on the face of the planet. That whole ordeal, but it's worrying, man, that the right side of things is starting to fall into that as well, and there's no room for moderation. There's no room for calm exchanges and peaceful voices. God, I wish that Gary Johnson wouldn't have been such a fucking dope because he had a legit shot. I think he actually had a legit shot at winning the presidency before he was like, yeah, I smoke pot all the time. Yeah. Where's Aleppo?
Yeah, you can't make those kind of keep.
You can't.
You gotta know what's going on when you're trying to run for president. Oh, but speaking of, here's the thing that happened recently. I don't think we had a chance to touch on it. Recently, there was the ruling. I want to say they got sent to the Supreme Court with the cake baking situation.
Yep.
Now I've kind of briefly caught bits and pieces of what was going on. I forgot the exact location where it was, but basically there was some gay guys that wanted to have a cake made, and the guy who owned the bakery essentially said, hey, it's against my religion, it's against my beliefs, that kind of what you got going, so I decline. And so I guess being offended by this, when I'm sure it probably would have been much easier to just say, hey, there's another bakery around here that could bake us a cake and have it on time for us instead of going through this whole ordeal. It became this whole story that I think that probably did get blown out of proportion. That it happened in Denver, actually, Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember they were talking about Colorado actually ended up being the ones that were violating the rights of the baker, I think is what the ruling ended up coming down, something like that. But like I said, I'm not sure with all the specifics. You may be able to explain it a bit better than I can. But how did you feel about the situation? Do you feel like the Supreme Court made the right ruling, kind of, I believe, in favor of the baker more so, or do you kind of feel like both sides kind of came out evenly with it, or how do you see the whole?
I felt like that should have never been in the Supreme Court, man. Why is the Supreme Court of the United States of America wasting time over a fucking gay man's wedding cake? Take your fucking entitled ass down the block and find somebody that will. There was actually, was that Steven Crowder? Did you ever see the one where they were like, well, what happens whenever we go into, say, I don't know, the Muslim majority portions of Michigan and go and find a bakery and find out if they'll make us a wedding cake? And they went around to a bunch of Muslim. Long story short, it was just them trying to say that there's like a double standard between like when Christians do it and when Muslims do it. Right, whatever. Got it. There's not a whole lot of white, uppity gay people walking around in Muslim majority Michigan. Let's just be fucking real about this. No, dude, I felt like that shit shouldn't have even gone to the Supreme Court. Like, I subscribe to the principle of non-aggression. That's why sometimes, like, even whenever it comes to voting, I get iffy about voting because my decisions and my groupthink may inflict, actions in somebody else's life that they're not okay with. I don't want somebody else to vote to make me pay for their contraception because that's your own goddamn responsibility. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want my vote to force somebody else into conscription or mandatory military service or something like that, Stuff like that needs to stay out of the Supreme Court whenever it comes to personal dealings. If you're not harming somebody else physically, if it just hurts your fifis, then fuck off, dude.
Exactly. And my thing is that, man, and as a consumer, why would you want a product from a company who's already blatantly said, hey, man, we don't really care for what you got going on, wouldn't want to do that for you? I think people
you've got to be a special kind of fucking vindictive to do that, man. Like, and I mean, my brother's gay, so I know how vindictive that they can be. Oh, fuck no. We're putting this fucking wedding on hold. Yeah. This bitch is making me a fucking cake. Like, put his fucking wedding on hold for the Supreme Court and shit, and we're still waiting on that ruling.
Yeah. Get that goddamn cake. But that's what I say. That's the thing, man. My thing is that's fucking hilarious. But that's the thing. It's just that that's just how I see it. Just being, hey, you know what? This isn't this guy. If I went somewhere and they say, oh, we don't care for black people, I'm like, man, okay, I'm glad that you're upfront and blunt because I'd rather know that than get you to make my cake and you just spit in it and did some other shit to it because you really don't care for what I got. Hey, you know what? We'd rather not serve your kind. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? Hey, I don't spend money over here. I suggest, hey, if you're of this type, they don't care for you, don't spend your money over here. You may want to go over here, save yourself some time. That's about it. But like you said, taking something as pointless as the fucking cake, going all the way to the Supreme Court, wasting taxpayer money to decide on rulings like this. I think it's a waste of time. I mean, there's so many other important things that need to be discussed. But I guess though what they said that the end conclusion was that the Denver business board, whatever the fuck it was going on, was basically they kind of they disrespected the baker by not taking his religious beliefs into account. It's almost basically that the gay rights and the religious beliefs should almost have been weighed out evenly, but they weren't in that instance. That's what I guess. But I guess that's what I pulled from the little brief explanation I'd heard from it.
Well, I did like that because like your oppression doesn't outrank my preference for my religion, and my religion doesn't outweigh your preference. I'm not going to make you the cake. You can go next door. Simple solution. We wouldn't even be talking about this if two people had just made the decision like, you know what? All right, cool. Like, you were saying if he doesn't like black people, all right, cool. Check it out. I'm going to holler at you later, Uncle Ruckus. I'm out of here.
Exactly.
Like, that's just it. And when you do it like that, when you don't absorb your like all that negativity and like get yourself all worked up and like somebody has to do something about this, you end up. You ever notice like whenever someone says something to you that you don't really know is like you would actually fight somebody if you understood what they were saying to you, and then your friends start talking shit to you and everything like that, and I bust that motherfucker's head in and yada yada yada, and you're like, you notice yourself start getting that fight or flight response, and you're like, fuck man, fuck. So now like for the next 2 weeks, every time you have an interaction with a stranger, you're like, oh yeah. Fuck's that mean, bro? You want to go? And it's like some 80-year-old man asking you what fucking time it is. Like, stop getting yourself so worked up over that shit. The people that like this whole Twitter thing that we have about the refrigerator comment going right now. There's people that are like trying to come at me all sideways and shit like, oh, well, gender equality ends with childbirth. And I know you like that. I know you like that response. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That kid's got a loving mother now and a great refrigerator. Like, fucking win-win for that kid.
When I read that shit, I literally laughed. I mean, it was like I let out a cackle. I mean, it was so fucking funny. It was just unexpected. I was like, oh my god, fucking man, things is killing them today, man.
That's how I treat those people, man. Like, I show them respect, but at the same time, I try to show them like, hey, your argument's a little bit ridiculous, because if you look at my profile on Twitter, just another asshole with shitty opinions. Don't take me so seriously that you have to go on a crusade against me to prove how bad of a person that I am. 9 times out of 10, I'm fucking joking. Yeah. The one time that I'm not, I'm going to tell you, dude, you need to get the fuck up off of my shit because I don't have time for you. But, yeah, people are always trying to get like a zinger in on each other. So if you can accomplish the zinger and not make them like upset and feel stupid at the same time, then they'll actually laugh at it and be like, all right, man, cool, you're good, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna fight with that. But
and that's really all it's about. Because I think some people, they just wake up looking for an argument. I mean, I think there are people who literally get on Twitter and they're just scowling Twitter looking for something just to. And I mean, I know it's a fact because the damn transphobe watchdog. That's what it does. That's that account. I went and actually looked at it to see what it does, and all it does is go onto accounts and say woof woof or grr, and I mean literally that's all it does. Anything it finds quote unquote transphobic or something that someone says or whatever, which I think is retarded. That must be a very difficult account to maintain. It has to be, but the level of intelligence required. But I mean, so I mean that shows that that's what people literally do. They go out hunting and seeking some type of oppression. If you go looking for something, guess what? You're gonna find it. Yeah, and so continue on. You go. I mean, of course you'll be able to be right, because if I look for something for the fucking a year, even though I passed up all these other good things, but I'm looking for this one negative thing, and all the great shit I've surpassed in this year, but I find it. I told you it existed. I told you it was still here, but the 99% of the shit was good, but I found that one bad thing that I was looking for just to prove. Of course you're gonna get it. Of course you'll be right. But then you're going to overlook all the benefits, all the pleasures, all the good things in life, and that's what I think most people are doing. They're hyper focused on bullshit.
Here's what sucks about like Twitter and the internet. If you take it at face value and you open up Twitter or Instagram or whatever and you approach it lightheartedly and you try to understand where the humor is. Don't try to agree with whatever it is that people are saying. Find the humor in what they do. Like, I can't agree with a single thing that Bernie Sanders stands for, but during his entire presidential campaign, I followed the Bernie Sanders dank meme stash because that shit was funny as hell, dude. I'm a humorous person. I enjoy, like, I'm very jovial. I like to laugh a lot because I've only got so many breaths that I can take. I'd rather spend them laughing. But you would find out just how genuinely funny, compassionate, warm, and welcoming people are if you would just take what they're saying with the tiniest grain of, like, how can I find some humor in this, or how can I just ignore it? Exactly. And if it bothers you and you get that little hair standing up on the back of your neck, you know, your feathers get fucking ruffled by some digital fucking letters on the LCD screen on your telephone, guess what? You can click off of that bitch and go fucking jog a lap around the block, and then when you come back, you'll probably forget what the fuck you're so mad for. But I think it's a feedback loop, man. Like, people who are running around trying to find stuff to complain about, it's just like if your boys get you all worked up and now you're looking for a fight the next 2 weeks because you don't want to get punked again. Yeah. It's that exact same thing. If all you ever look for is negativity on Twitter, then when you open up Twitter, you're going to find negativity, and you're going to be like, oh, we got to stomp this out. This is so wrong. Yeah, why?
Yeah. Like I say, man, I'd rather people be who they are, just so I know how to approach them. I'd rather be someone, like I say all the time, I'd rather you be upfront and blunt and blatant about how you feel, so I don't have to second guess. I don't have to question anything, because I think that's how I'm going to be. If I don't care about something, say, hey, you know what, I really don't care about that. I don't give a fuck. Or if it's something that is going to concern me, you know, hey, this is how I feel about it. But like I say, you say most things, you know, I laugh about most things, because I mean, there's always a way. I mean, there's always a way to find humor. I think I was in the den talking about that a little bit last night, just saying, you know, I feel like, you know, stand-up comedy is something I enjoy because it's almost the last bastion of free speech, you know, and they're trying to take that down too. But just, you know, the fact that you can get on stage and just people are allowed to just speak, you know, tell their story or whatever it may be, and just, but then now you have people get a fit out, they don't like it, they get up and they walk out, and they do all these other things, or people come out. I hear stories about comedians saying that, you know, people will come up to them after their shows and say, oh, well, you shouldn't have said this, and you should probably, like, who are you to tell somebody what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to say? I've never been a person, like I say, even if it's stuff I don't like, I mean, like, I'd rather have the understanding. I'm not a person who just wants to, oh, I heard somebody didn't like it, I'm going to shut my mind off to everything that this person is about, that they're saying, everything that's going on. Like, I just rather have this understanding. But again, like I said, but going back to comedy and things like that, I mean, it was somebody that I forgot who it was. But again, like I said, it actually was under a little bit of fire for some of the things. Well, not just Roseanne, even though she said it was a joke, but it was somebody else who had did something recently. Because I wanted.
Oh, was it Samantha Bee?
I heard something was up with her, but I didn't hear what exactly happened with Samantha Bee.
She called Ivanka Trump a feckless cunt for putting pictures of her and her kid up on Mother's Day because her father is ripping families apart, you know, with the immigration reform / deportation thing. So yeah, she called Ivanka Trump a feckless cunt for putting pictures of her and her kids up. Dumb. Well, yeah, but I don't think she should lose her job, and I don't think Roseanne should lose her job. She can just chalk that up to, like, well, wow, that went south real fucking quick. Let's not do that anymore.
Oh, so she ended up losing her job for that one?
I don't think so, man. I haven't looked into it. I've never even heard of this lady before. Like, I've seen, like, scrolling through on TV, like, Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, but I had no idea what that was. I thought it was like some kind of Skinamax on TNT or something like that, dude. I was like, TNT's pushing the envelope these days, man.
I think I saw her from, I want to say I've seen her once or twice on The Daily Show.
Actually, I'm lying. If I would have thought that was Skinamax, I'd have been watching that shit every goddamn day. I'll never lie to you, Honcho.
Oh man, hey, Skinamax. Hey, that's like we had to get started somewhere at one point in time. You had to start with the softcore stuff,
the scrambled channels, baby.
Then you work your way up, man. Hey, you start learning. You can't take. You don't want to get into the hardcore stuff immediately. Then you go like, whoa. You know, that's what you got to work your way into it. Skinamax is a stepping stone. You know, to get you to the good stuff. But yeah, man. Yeah. I think that there's a double standard there also, because that's kind of something that I wanted to talk about when we were going to speak on the Roseanne thing, and how you felt about that, because it seems like, you know, more left-wing liberal beliefs. You know, we had who was it that a while back, Kathy Griffin with the beheaded Trump thing. I think it was like or she had was it a shot Trump or a beheaded Trump, something crazy she had like a shoot with, and you don't see the same type of feedback. I mean, when you see, you see right when you get upset. But I mean, it's like in Hollywood and places like that, the news, or it's almost like I say with the lazy journalism, like it's okay to attack Trump. Again, I'm not a fan, but it's like if the shit would have went the other way, this person needs to be fired, or this needs to be, this, that, and the third. But now, like I say, it's almost like your ratings get a boost.
Yep.
Like Colbert has made his whole night show, basically, as long as he's been on the Tonight or Late Tonight, whichever one it is, his whole thing has been about Trump. Because before that, he wasn't looking too well. If I'm not mistaken, his ratings were down and people really weren't caring for it. But as soon as Trump started running, he had something like he had an easy target. Now people who want to hear nothing but, Trump jokes and shit like that, they tune in, they get what they want. And a lot of people are eating off of it. Like the chick said at the and I know she had a lot of blowback too, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But what she said was
true. Yeah, the Sarah Huckabee Sanders lady. Yeah.
And she was just basically telling them like, a lot of y'all act like you hate him, but in reality, you love it because it's making your jobs that much easier, and you know that you're eating because people are doing that. And that's why I say, to me, comedy, it seems like the comedians are the only ones left that are willing to tell the truth, that because they know, shit, I mean, they almost have nothing, but some of them, they're kind of on the bullshit train too. I guess it almost depends on which ones you're talking about, because we do have agendas with those too.
Yeah, I'll forever be a fan of Bill Burr and Joe Rogan stand-up, dude. What was it have we talked about that before? Whenever Joe Rogan had that female heckler who said that he had a small dick.
No, I don't think we ever talked about that.
Joe Rogan is a pretty well-spoken guy, and he's very quick-witted. That's why he's a comedian before anything else. But he said something, and he was like, no, everybody, you've got the floor now. You've interrupted everybody's show. Don't be a coward. Say what you're going to say. And she said something fucking stupid, and he was like, wow, basically we waited this whole time for that. Yeah. And then she was like, nobody wants to fuck you. And he was like, nobody wants to fuck me. Check this out. How many girls in here want to fuck me right now? The whole crowd of women like, ah! He's like, and he was like, yeah, sit down, bitch. I'll wrap my dick around your neck and fucking start you like a lawnmower. And I thought that was the best full-on thrash that I've ever heard from a comedian. And then when Bill Burr took down Cleveland, they started like booing him, and he started making fun of the Browns and the Cavaliers and all this other shit, dude. If you look it up, it's Bill Burr's takedown of Cleveland. It's like the most famous flipping of a crowd in all of stand-up comedy, I believe. Man, you've got to see that.
He's a good one, because I want to say one of the more recent ones he did. It might have been the last one he did when he was in Tennessee.
Yeah,
and it was a couple of things. He said a couple of jokes there. You could tell the crowd was they were kind of getting a little unsettled there. And he said a couple of things, and he kind of just got him back on his side real quick. But I forgot what the jokes were. It was some stuff. I don't know. I think he was kind of calling Tennessee country or kind of backwoods, just saying a bunch of shit about him. The crowd was getting just a little bit testy, and he definitely finessed his way back into that. Bill Burr is definitely one of my favorites. Very underappreciated comedian. Because
I liked the Cellar Crew, man, with him and Patrice O'Neal. Patrice O'Neal was a fucking pimp, dude.
Man,
that dude. What was that doctor lady's name? They were on Opie and Anthony. Patrice O'Neal was on Opie and Anthony, and there was some like, I guess she was like a smoking hot sex doctor or something like that. She kind of had like a little bit of a Russian accent or like an Eastern European accent. Either way. She was like, if Patrice will let me put this strap on up his ass, I'll strip naked for him. Yeah. And he played poker face the whole time. He was just like, and then like his wife was calling in. She was like, Patrice, don't you fucking do that, blah, 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 blah. And so she was like, do we have a deal? And Patrice was like, yeah, sure, why not? And his wife's like, motherfucker. So she strips down naked right there, and he's like, God, look at that. And she's like, all right, Patrice, it's time. He's like, oh, no, you got me. I'm a motherfucking liar.
Yeah, Patrice was great, man. Definitely one of the more underappreciated talents. And I think that a lot of people, the thing that I liked about him, I guess, is that, he didn't take anybody's shit. And he wasn't, he kind of stuck to his principles. He stuck to his principles. And that's why he wasn't as big as he probably could have been. A lot of comedians said that he would be the kind of guy that would go into the meeting. If he didn't like what he was hearing, he would just kind of, hey, what, fuck y'all, I'm out. He's not, compromise his principles for anybody. And I can respect that, because you have a lot of people who will sell out for anything.
Have you seen a lot of Patrice O'Neal stand up?
Oh man, I've seen was that Elephant in the Room and
Yep.
the one he had before that. I've seen a couple of little smaller sets he's done too, but yeah, Elephant in the Room was great.
When he's talking about like walking around in the ghetto, and he's like, you don't say no, I don't want that. You don't like try to ask them what word it is, because they'll come up with words for all kinds of stuff like that. If somebody walks up to you and says like, hey man, do you want this? You just, nah, I'm good, and you keep on walking. And he goes, and even me, I can only get to like 53rd. And he starts talking about like how you can't walk too far in there. He's like, everybody can tell, everybody can see in your walk like where you belong. He goes, I don't go anywhere north of 53rd. That whole skit that he's got there is hysterical, man. If you haven't checked out Tom Segura, no, I think you have, haven't you?
Yeah, I like Tom Segura. Tom Segura is real funny. I like him. I had a friend, he put me on Tom, and it's just the way my old lady, she don't like. She's like, I don't like the way Tom, but I'm a fan. I like Tom a lot. Who else? There's another good one. Damn it. But yeah, I do like Tom Segura. It's somebody else who reminds me. I can't think of who it is, and I always associate with him, or I used to. But yeah.
Did you check out Josh Blue yet? The comedian with cerebral palsy?
No, I have not. Have not checked out.
That dude is funny as hell, man. He's he kind of blends a little bit of sketch in with it, because he's like his other hand, he's got cerebral palsy. He's like, and the only reason why I'm up here on stage talking right now, other than the fact that my hand told me I have to, and he just says goofy stuff, and he's like, oh, and by the way, I'm not going any further until I get some change, and he makes people throw change up on the stage at him, and he walks around and picks it up and puts it in his pocket, and he's like, 85 cents, that's good, we can keep going. Josh Blue, man.
Josh Blue, I got it right now.
His best joke, I'll tell you this because I won't ruin it for you. He says it so much better. He's like talking about how, because he's got cerebral palsy, he was afraid to drop his baby when he first had him. And then he's like, 3 years later, I'm afraid I'm going to drop him on purpose.
That's fucking hilarious. God.
Man, that dude is good. Yeah.
So just thinking about, the things, the events that have taken place in the last few weeks, is there anything else that just crossed your mind? Anything else that that has stood out? Because I feel like there's been so much been going on. I feel like there's something that is being overlooked, and I'm just trying to.
What about the North Korea summit's back on, man, with Kim Jong-un? Apparently there was a letter that got delivered to Trump, like directly from Kim Jong-un in like a giant custom envelope, because Trump wrote him that whole thing that was like, hey, if you're gonna treat my vice president like that with all these hostilities and everything like that, I'm sorry, but so long, see you later. Maybe we can talk sometime in the future. Yeah. And then there was something, I don't know if it was like a propaganda or something, but basically somewhere there's photos of like or accounts, I guess I should say, I don't know if there's photos of it, of Kim Jong-un who's like crying because he can't feed his people because his country's so poor, and he's just trying to get some trade established outside. And I really don't think that even as the dictator of North Korea, there's no such thing as like a one-man show. One man can't know everything. So I think that as far as like the whole nuclear testing program, probably got some kind of purview over it, but not directly in charge of it. But he knows if he speaks out against it too fast, that all they're going to do is put a cap in the back of his head and then next man up. So yeah, what do you think about that whole situation, man? Like trying to end the Korean War, it's the forgotten war. It's right after World War II, the first war against communism.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, another thing. Like I say, again, with all the animosity towards Trump, is something I definitely had to give him his credit for. Maybe it was the tough talk. Maybe it was, the little rocket man statement or whatever it is. But once the initial statements, the initial, meeting was on, I thought that was, that's just something I had to give him his due for. As much as we've heard about North Korea, it's always in the negative. It's always about how they're a threat. They're testing, this missile program. They have a missile capable of hitting Chicago now, or capable of doing this. And then to turn around and hear, hey, Kim Jong-un wants to sit down with Trump and, have a meeting. Now, at first I was like, well, how much of this do we owe to Dennis Rodman? You know, how much of this is Rodman put in his ear? And I was like, oh, let's not go too far. But, you know, I have to give him his credit for that, because, I mean, that's something that no other president has done in dealing with North Korea. And the fact that it was off, like I said, I didn't know exactly about everything being put back on. I was kind of that's kind of actually a little bit of news to me that it is back on. But I thought that was a great thing, man. But then again, like I said, I'd heard the accounts of, you know, as you mentioned that he kind of told me, hey, if you're going to act like that, then, you know, well, maybe we'll see in the future. But I think that kind of shows to me that, you know, people can sit here and say, oh, Trump's dumb in this and Trump. Some people may lack in certain areas. People may not be perfect in every area. But Trump is a master businessman. Even if he, you know, he does or doesn't have the money that he says, he knows how to handle people in negotiations. And that's something that I do notice, because sometimes it may not be a thing that you can take a subject in college for, that you may be well versed in it, but he knows how to interact with people, how to assume the dominant position with people, even if it's just through his words, or if it's through his, you know, face-to-face meetings or things like that. I mean, just even when you just look at how you breaking down his handshakes with people and things like that, he just has this ability to assume that role. And I don't know if that's what people fear, because most people tend to be, you know, timid. Most people tend to be more submissive, and I don't know if that's what it is that people just see, like that is the big bad businessman coming through. I mean, I don't know what it is that people hate about him. Like I say, I mean, we can look at the Charlottesville stuff, and I can say, okay, that's definitely despicable. But guess what? Was he out there with the fucking hood on and doing all this? Fuck no, man.
Guilty by association and guilty by lack thereof, and fuck it, he's just guilty.
Exactly. So my thing is, because it's like, you know, because I could say the same thing, like, hey, you know, some shit going on in the hood, man. Well, you know, some good people in the hood, they just have it bad. But it's the same motherfuckers that could be out there killing, shooting, and you could lump me in that same category. So that's why I say, man, I try to look at things as unbiased as I can. I try to compare situations, but I think that, again, like I say, even though I'm not a fan, I'm not a supporter, I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not just a blind follower, but you have to give the man due credit where credit is due. And I feel like in the North Korea situation, and now that it's back on, even more so, because apparently it's something that's working, because again, Obama didn't get any of that done. I have to give the man his credit.
You know what, man? I think let me set the stage for you. Here's why I think. I think that I've figured it out, Ed. Okay. I think I've got it.
All right.
Picture in your mind. It's 2011. Okay. There's a young and impressionable Kim Jong-un in North Korea, whose father has just passed away. Yeah. And he's a little bit vulnerable. Yeah. And in walks this tall, crazy-haired American named Dennis Rodman with all this swagger. And they hit it off well. And Kim takes him shooting in his tanks or some shit like that. Yeah. And then they return to their room for the night, and Uncle Denny lays pipe like Kim's never had in his entire life. Man. But then he leaves, and now all of a sudden Kim is a ruler of this magic dynasty, but all he can think about is Uncle Rod.
Yes, Uncle Rod, man.
And every night he cries in his room, Uncle Rod, come back to me. I'm so ornery. I think that I've got it figured out. The entire North Korea diplomatic positioning is so that Dennis Rodman can visit Lil Kim anytime he wants to.
In the world, in the day and age that we live in right now, that could be one of the most logical things that I've heard in probably the last week. That is the most.
That's logical.
I almost wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised if you heard a story that came out. I mean, it almost seems like this is the world that we live in, because I mean, I can't put anything past anybody almost in nowadays, because it's so much shit that comes. You just like, it's almost not even wow anymore. It's like, oh, well, that's happening now. It's almost like things are just people don't. Well, you have the outrage, because you do have a segment of society that is gonna, no matter what it is, they're gonna blow it out of proportion.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, especially with a lot of that, the old stuff, when people love to go dig up shit from, 5, 6, 10 years ago. And like you mentioned earlier in the stream, hey, man, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. You read a couple of good books, you might not be the same person you were a couple of months ago. You know what I mean? Just life progresses, you make changes. And I think it's the people that, and it's funny that it's the people who do the most digging. They're the ones with the most fucking issues.
Dirt.
Yeah. But they want to make sure they point all your shit out again, like you said. Hey, let's distract them. Let's, throw it over here. You look that way while I'm over here shoveling and trying to cover my shit up. But that's hilarious. I mean, because I find that. I mean, it's a real peculiar thing. I mean, how do Kim Jong-un and Dennis Rodman find common ground? I mean, what?
I mean, I think that would just be chalked up to the human experience, man. Like, everybody's fascinated by something new and different, so they probably had like a mutual fascination. See, now that whole scenario that I put in my head, now when I say they had a mutual fascination, I can't think of that seriously. Oh, I like you, Mr. Robin. Oh, no, don't drink that tea. A little bit of cyanide, no big deal. Hey, no hood, but just don't drink. I think that it's partially mutual fascination, and who knows, man, like, Dennis Rodman may just be a very magnetic person. Like, we only know the side of him that's the weird, shocking, wear the dress, do the hair thing, but, I mean, even through a translator, the dude might just have gravitas. He might just have pure swagger. And especially in a country like North Korea, where that would be something completely and totally different, there might just be some kind of just fascination. They're like wanting to know more because we're just naturally curious people. I just have to chalk it up to the human experience, man, and being fascinated with somebody being exposed to something new and then being like, oh, okay, well, this guy, didn't try to slit my throat. He wasn't an agent of the CIA while he was here or whatever like that. So, well, at least one American's not bad, something like that.
And then I guess that's a foot in the door. You start with one, maybe.
Always.
Yeah. That's
always.
That's interesting. But yeah, that whole thing. So with that, you said the talks are back on. When is that supposed to happen?
The 12th.
The 12th. Okay.
So what day is it? Today's the 9th. So yeah. But yeah, man, I think that I am out of ideas at this point. I think we've gotten very well caught up. Are you you got anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, I was gonna say I'm just trying to make sure there's nothing specific, nothing really jumping out at me. So it's probably when the streams will be like, oh shit, I meant to talk about. That's how it always works. You know what I'm saying? Once you're not on the spot, then things start coming back to you. But as of right now, man, I don't think there's anything else that I have in mind in particular.
One little piece of like just housekeeping. Do you have a grill?
No, I do not have a grill.
You need to go out and get you a little cheap charcoal grill, man, because I figured out how to make the world's best hot wings. And I'm talking like they're not too spicy.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of zest to them, but like the jug of Frank's Red Hot that's like 8-9 inches tall.
Yeah.
And it's got the wide mouth on it. You do one of those and one bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's buffalo sauce, and then you do a whole cup, like you put it into a pot and you bring it up to where it's warm. Mm-hmm. Do a whole cup of brown sugar, bam, throw it in there, and then there's a stuff called Complete Seasoning. It's got like cumin and a bunch of other stuff in there. Okay. You just sprinkle it over until you cover the top of it, and then you get an entire bottle of that Famous Dave's dry rub.
Okay.
Dump that shit in there, and then 2 of the small sticks of butter or 1 long stick of butter, and mix that around, and then marinate those wings overnight and throw them on the grill whenever it's really hot. And I'm talking like get them extra crispy on the outside to like black. Okay. And I just like I was working on the table and I had those on the grill, dude, and I let them get a little bit far gone for what I thought they were, but like they pulled right off the bone, and it was so fucking good, man.
Yes, sir, Brandon. That's gonna be the new thing at the end of all the sauce side. We're gonna throw a little recipe in there for y'all.
Recipe for the week, yeah.
So try it out.
Yeah.
Actually, I had to jot that down real quick today. But once you said wing, shit, that lit up all the sensors in the brain. I'm a chicken wing eating fool, man. I mean, shit, Wingstop, fucking. Well, there was they're all right. I want to say a Bayou City. They just shut down for some reason, but Bayou City wings, they don't get a lot of love. I always see a lot of them get real bad reviews for some reason. But I've had some shitty customer service at a lot of them. And last one I went to, the guy was fucking obviously suffering from a cocaine problem. Dude, he was like, yeah, I could have been on American Idol. I'm just saying, you know, and he starts like humming, singing. It's like nobody asked him to sing or anything. And he's like, it was like he can't between singing and sniffing. I'm like, what the fuck? Then I'll be right back. I got to go to the restroom and like fucked up the margaritas. We just had a whole bunch of shit going. I was like, yeah, this guy's obviously on the cocaine.
Was he a little bit older, or was he a younger guy?
Younger guy.
Younger guy, okay, so he was new to cocaine. He wasn't like older, like the 80s, never left cocaine kind of guy. Yeah, I had a guy at my old job that I worked with like that, dude. I swear to God that like, because like the first thing he did whenever he got his work truck is he paid out of his own pocket to go get the windows tinted. I was like, Donnie's in there like, you know, getting ready to party, bro. Like doing a little bump right there, and he's like, "Woo, let's go fucking sell some shit!" Like,
instant
Neil
enthusiasm.
Peart's the best fucking drummer ever.
Yeah, man. That's one. Hey, I look at the energy. I'll chill on that one. You know, I like to relax after a hard day's work. I don't want to sit there reviewing everything that's gone on and can't calm down and just getting the jitters and shit. I'll take a pause on that one. That's funny though. Fucking yeah, dude. American Idol. Yeah, you believe anything? What they say? Cocaine is a hell of a drug. That's exactly what it was. Fucking motherfucker singing back there, trying to sing and make margarita. We'll have to talk about this for some time. I'm starting to think of some of the shit he was saying, but yeah, man, that's just crazy. It's real funny. I'm just laughing at it now because he's just doing all kind of off the wall shit. But you know, we call it a wrap, man, and we want to bring this thing to a close. I want to say, Mr. Man Things, man, another great stream as always. Definitely got to cover a variety of things here. This week, like I said, I've been working on some things, trying to catch up. I've been trying to write a little e-course thing that I've been working on here, so I've spent a lot of time with that, but I almost got that under control. So hopefully, like we've been saying about getting this back consistently, right, on a schedule. So we're gonna get that doing because, like I said, I've been like I say, changing the timing with the sauce and all that other stuff. So let's just talk about some things before we just I don't know when exactly you have, but let's get this thing going right. And okay, and we'll make sure it's right and everything. Appreciate everybody in the chat who may have just been listening, maybe just hearing some good stuff. You know, just listen to what's going on. Appreciate y'all as always, man. Again, hit that societymailbag@gmail if y'all have any questions. If something comes up that y'all ever want to talk about, you have, you know, things that you may just be dealing with in life. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be about politics. It doesn't have to be about, you know, any of the issues going on that we currently face. It could be a personal thing that you just may have a question about. You know, just a personal anything. Like I say, this is, you know, here to talk about, you know, different angles, different avenues of life, and it doesn't always have to be, you know, just breaking news. It's about the people. It's about being better than you were when you came in. Whenever you leave, you should be better than you were when you came in. So, hell yeah, Mr. Man, anything you want to say to the people before we get up out of here?
Yeah, please send me some mail, dude, because the society mailbag is lonelier than Kim Jong without old Uncle Rod. Oh, yeah. That's all I gotta say, man. I liked reading some mail for a while. We had a good flow going in there, and then we dropped off the stream, so we don't have as much. But yeah, thanks for staying with us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. We out.